Hey everyone, John Henry here, slingshotfutures.com, and welcome to the daily futures and crypto market outlook for tomorrow's trading. It's where we put together a game plan, a plan of attack, if you will, for tomorrow's trading day. And tomorrow is going to be the 30th of the month, already wrapping in towards the end of the month, and we do have quite a bit of stuff going on tomorrow. Not only do we have the ADP non-farm employment change stuff going on tomorrow, but we also have crude oil inventories. So it should be a little bit of an interesting day tomorrow, as if today wasn't already. There's a lot of movement today, and well, fingers crossed that keeps on going until tomorrow's price action. Now, as always, make sure to swing on over to slingshotfutures.com, scroll down, and click on the Join the Daily Outlook newsletter. That's going to let you sign your email up with us on our email list so that you'll be notified every time one of these videos comes out. Along with that, in the newsletter itself, we talk about all kinds of different stuff. Futures, stocks, cryptocurrencies, Forex, you name it, it's going to be in there at some point. So it's a great newsletter to get your hands on if you haven't already. Along with that, if you haven't already, in the live trade room subscription and trial info, you can sign up for a 3-day trial, so you can sit down with us for a couple days in the live trade room, and you can see our screens, you can see everything that we're doing from day to day, and it's a great way to just kind of hang out with us for a couple days and see what we're all about. You can ask questions, you can hang out with some of the members. Again, it's just a really cool environment and a good way to experience what it is that we do every day. Now, of course, if you do enjoy it, you can sign up for a weekly or monthly subscription. And, of course, if you join as a full-fledged VIP member, you get the live trade room as part of the package. Don't forget to check out some of those discounts that we've got going on for the VIP membership. Now, taking a look at the euro, we've got the euro giving back pretty much everything. Actually, it did give back everything over the last couple 5-minute bars here. We had a monster rally to the upside. It sputtered out, and we can see the buyers just trying, and then they gave up and started pummeling the other way. And that seems to be the last kind of throw that they had before the market really caught some bearish leg to the downside, and now they ended up giving everything back to a brand new low of day. Now, when we hit that low of day, it was a monster twin reversal, so it's not exactly the most enticing of sell moves down here. But that tells us a couple things. First of all, we have major support at 1992 to 92.5 in that area, and that also coincides with the ETH close. We have broken through there. They acted as support for a couple tests, and then when they broke through, they finally hammered down to the lows of the day. Not to mention the big 2,000 level smack in the middle of everything else. This area is going to be an area of interest. A lot of buyers are going to be looking to try to buy into these lows, assuming that this low side breakout is a failure, which at this point in time kind of does look like it. But it's going to be really hard to see this kind of blow off on the bottom not be followed up with about the same distance breakout to the upside on that wedge. So I'm looking to sell still. I want one more leg to the downside, or at least an attempt on a leg down, and that's probably going to get stuck at around 9,700. Very frequently when you have these big blow-offs on the lows after a big reversal down, they'll pop up, hit an area of resistance, turn down, test that higher low area as support now, and then start turning up from there. I'm not a big fan of trying to call reversals on markets. It's, picking bottoms, picking tops, not really my thing. I would rather catch the middle part. But this is likely going to be a short-term bouncing area where the market finds a little bit of a floor. A lot of sellers will be taking profit down here, and they're going to be looking for some higher prices to jump back in again, and that's going to be right around 2,085, right ahead, just above, again, of that big 2,000 number. We're probably going to get pretty choppy around there as well. So what I'm looking for, again, is an equidistant break down to equal out on the highs into an area of resistance at 85, and for the market to cycle back down to retest those previous lows as support as the final objective. Switching over to gold. Gold is another market that gave everything back. They had a fairly decent bullish rally. They gave quite a bit of it back already in the early morning session, giving back probably 95% of the move. They didn't quite break down before rallying up to a new high, but once they hit those new highs, it was kind of game over. They couldn't break out of the highs very much. Every time they tried, it was a complete failure, and that sell candle really sealed the deal there. Now, they did end up coming back, so a lot of buyers that did buy into the dip down here, buy into the pullback, they were able to at least push the market back up to retest. And this is kind of the same thing that I'm looking on the bear side for on the euro, what we were just talking about. Having them come back to that area of support or resistance and then reject back down. Exact same scenario here on gold. They broke up, they failed, pop back in, come back, retest it, and drove all the way back down. Now, they ended up going a full deviation down, and we have two major levels of support underneath us. The first level of massive support, 12.5. We're hitting it right now, cycling off of it a little bit. not really a big surprise that we're cycling off of it so aggressively. And really, the overall context down here is simply that, well, we have a lot of sellers that are taking profit, and they're looking for a place to do it, and based off of kind of expansion levels, 12.5 looks really solid, and so far, they are holding it pretty well. If they do want to continue this breakdown, though, likely in the overnight session to continue lower, looking for that final objective at 1306. So the fact that we do still have downside objectives below us that haven't been tested, we've got some room to try to get in at a better price to shove the market down once again. Now, just like we were talking about on the euro, we have a blow off through the bottom, expecting a blow off through the highs. I would love to see them come back to this earlier little double bottom retest zone that also lines up with the previous high of day at 17.8. We're kind of creating a nice little cluster of resistance up here that might be a beautiful area to find some selling pressure back off of, and once again push down, not necessarily to a new low, but to at least bounce off that 12.5. Bigger time traders, longer term traders are going to be looking for that bigger dive down to 1306, which is definitely still a possibility, but I'm looking for at least a retest of 12.5. On crude oil, we did just have the API report come out, and that caused a little bit of a spike higher here. I haven't looked at the number yet, but we're still challenging this major area of support and resistance. We tested it multiple times, here, 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 even a little bit here as support and resistance, retested it there. They tried breaking above it, not looking so good, and now even the API candle can't even really break through it yet. Granted, there's still, you know, the better part of 3 minutes left on this candle. They're having a really hard time around this 46.45. So even if we don't get an opportunity to trade off of this level specifically, we still need to keep an eye on this going into tomorrow's price action. Chances are this is going to cause a little bit of a mess whenever price comes back around this 46.45 zone. Now, we are seeing quite a bit of rejection here on the latest API candle all the way back down again. I mean, pretty much reversing every little spike up they had. And we're still holding the top of the wedge. The wedge drawing off the first couple swings there. They ground across that for a little while, tried breaking away. The API threw it off for a little bit. But for the most part, we're still holding that. The next area is the wedge rising support. So we can see a very clear, nice little wedge forming here. And the overall sentiment right now is still definitely bearish. I like the fact that we're holding this earlier area of resistance. We're holding it again. They failed the breakout move up. And even the API is having a really hard time breaking through this. It's something to definitely be noted. It doesn't look like the sellers have taken over yet. We've just barely gotten on the other side of the moving average. You generally want to see something like this when one of the sides have taken kind of over, if you will. And we haven't had that yet. So this is an area of interest, but what I would really like to see is a secondary dip lower. Show that the sellers want to take this down, and then look for a bounce back up to sell it off of 46.45 or even the wedge highs, depending on how far down it wants to go. A couple levels of support in the way, of course. The previous low of day at 46.15 could be a big area of interest as well, but the primary objective after that is going to be back down to those lows at around 45.85. So looking for selling pressure, waiting for a little bit of this API news candle stuff to get out of the way, and then looking for a potential sell right back down to those lows. And then finally, the index markets. Ooh, man, the index markets had a heck of a rally today. A full reversal all the way from the lows straight back up to the highs. Massive level of resistance at 24.47 was just hit. The previous high of day was almost taken out as well. We've literally engulfed almost all of yesterday with the previous low of day right here and the previous high of day right there. We're very close to it. They may even end up doing it before we start closing off the day. But a big reversal off of the bottom. We had that big gap down. Terrible follow through in terms of that monster bear candle, and then nobody showed up to the party. We came back, likely a lot of sellers going to be hovering around there. You can see they tried to defend that area, but they did eventually give up, causing the market to rally higher very aggressively. And from there, we've actually deviated higher another full level up, and that's where that 24.47 area comes from as major resistance. Now, along with that, we do also have a nice spike up into a spike in channel. Pretty obvious structuring going on here, and we're just seeing the buyers maintaining this pressure. I'm sure you could find maybe like a head and shoulders inside here as well, but I mean, in all reality, for the most part, the buyers own the market, and we're right back up towards the highs. We are dealing with a major level of resistance at 24.47, but if that starts to break, there is a good chance that we get another continuation to the upside. So because we are very high up right now, it is very expensive. You are buying it at a premium right now if you're going to be jumping in. I would rather be looking for a pullback. Now, I don't necessarily need a huge pullback. You could even get as aggressive as buying the retest of the previous close of the ETH session. That's at 44.25. that does also have a lot of support and resistance inside there with this earlier kind of ceiling and then a potential retest as support. So you could get as aggressive as that, buying a little bit earlier and maybe even building into a position. If it does want to pull back a little bit further though, 38.75 is what I have my eyes on, and if they can dip a little bit further down, 34 3/4 down to a retest of that big bear candle from earlier at around 24 would be a, 34 would be a phenomenal area to look to jump on in. So it's just a matter of how far down they want to come, but right now we're a little too expensive. We just got to wait for them to give us that push that we need. So that's going to do it for the outlook. Now again, for the news tomorrow, we only really have two announcements. We have the non-farm, that's not really, I mean, it's not the full-fledged non-farm. That's the thing with the non-farms. It's one of those that still is a big deal, but you know, more people, I think, honestly, are going to be looking at the GDP. Now, non-farms, the ADP non-farm employment change is coming out at 8:15 tomorrow morning. GDP is coming out at 8:30. So more likely, I think 8:30 is going to be the bigger one, but still, those two are the big news announcements for tomorrow. And then if you are a crude oil trader, we do also have the crude oil inventories tomorrow at 10:30. The forecast for that is negative 1.908 million. The previous was negative 3.327 million. So stick around if you want to take a look at the cryptocurrencies. Don't go anywhere. Make sure to lock in and come along on a ride with us. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin first. Bitcoin did finally break out today up to the 4,500, actually pushed to 4,600, and we're still sitting on the highs. So a very strong bull rally to the upside, still continuing with just a huge amount of aggression. Now, this has likely created a little bit of, I don't really want to call it a channel. It's more of a wedge. It's a really ugly looking one, if I'm honest. I would really like to see them put in a high around 4,700, pull back a little bit, and give us something to work with off of these previous highs. Then we could draw from high to high, and we could have something that is a little bit more clear. Right now, though, we are still bullish. We are still very much on the buy side and still rallying aggressively towards those highs. We really just need a pullback. So a pullback down to 44.76 would be the nearest area of interest where they come back to those previous major swings. We go back a little further, you can also see that kind of coincides with some of the earlier support and resistance through there as well. So a lot of areas of interest right around that 4,400 and lower area, and arguably even 4,100 and lower is a potential buy zone. Right now we are very high. Again, another market that is sitting at a premium price. I want to see a little bit of a pullback, at least to 44.76, if not a little bit better, below 4,400 before we start pushing back up towards those highs. Bitcoin Cash catching a little bit of a drop lower. Not a big surprise there with its partner in crime, right? Bitcoin pushing up to that 4,600 and past. Well, Bitcoin Cash is catching a little bit of a dip. We are still not really any reason to be a buyer. We're waiting for some slightly deeper pullback areas. We're getting close, right? We're getting close. Again, this is a 4-hour chart. I had to zoom out yesterday just to get a little bit of a bigger picture. That 0.1 looks really juicy, and that might be all that we're waiting for. If we do start breaking below that and looking for a much wider target, obviously the open where we started BCC off is going to be a monster area of interest. But aside from that, really just kind of looking for support at the lows. Right? I want to see them come in at around that 0.05 area if they start breaking below 0.1 and see if they can muster up enough support to catch another bounce off of it, just like they did before with this nice little rally here. So overall, you know, Bitcoin Cash, I think we're still kind of in a holding pattern and waiting until we get a little more info, because right now we're still just kind of grinding lower. On Ethereum, nice back and forth movement here. That target area we were talking about yesterday that was taken out, beautiful test of that and a lot of profit taking down right back towards a medium moving average test. And that was at 79. So we are seeing a lot of support coming off of here still. We have a lot of reason to believe that the buyers aren't done, probably just taking some profit off the table. We have a wedge test low. We also have that as a potential channel coming across the highs. There are a lot of things that are still building here for a potential push back up towards those highs at around 86. And that's really what I'm looking for as well. We've already had the short-term targets push all the way straight up. Pretty easy move there. Now we just need a little bit of a deeper pullback. This may be all we get at around that 79 area. But if we do get a nice hourly bull candle, we may have another buying opportunity above that to shove the market back up and finish the job off at that 86. So still looking to be a buyer, but either right now if we get a strong bull bar or on a potential trap underneath this more recent low, sitting on maybe even the 200. The 200 period moving average might not be a bad spot to look for a potential test on Ethereum. Over on Litecoin pulling back as well with that monster rally on Bitcoin. We have Litecoin pushing up major objectives. Still hasn't been tested. They came really close. They tickled it, but they didn't quite get it. So Litecoin buyers likely still holding on for those targets. We are getting a fairly decent pullback here. I would like to see a secondary bounce off of this to rally the market back up and see if we can finish that job off at around 1525. So definitely still on the buy side. I'm looking at this currently as more of a trap low. We had a wedge. They broke out against the trend. The buyers are still heavily aggressive in this. Makes a lot of sense to see one more attempted leg to the upside for Litecoin back to those targets. And then what we were talking about yesterday, Pink did follow through. Beautiful rally to the upside. Monster highs being put in on Pink once again. And now we're starting to pull back after those highs were hit. Likely a lot of profit taking once again. So because of that, really what I'm looking for is a retest of earlier structure, right? We have the market putting in a nice swing high on that pop higher, and it failed. They couldn't break through it the next time. When they broke out, they couldn't even come back to it. That's creating a little bit of a zone. You can almost kind of see that zone being put in right inside of here where this area becomes a hot spot. If we can get a dip down into that 360 to 380 area, that would be a potentially really nice area to find some buying pressure to push the market right back up again. I like the way that Pink is looking. I don't want to buy it this high up. I want to buy on that deep pullback to around 380 and lower, really, to see if we can get another rally back up. Might not make it to another new high, but at least looking back to around 502 to kind of finish off that objective. So that's going to do it for the crypto markets as well. Like we always say when it comes to any market that we come to, make a plan, trade the plan, follow those rules, and you'll be A-okay. Until next time, we'll see y'all then.